Hello, and welcome to something slightly different. I did my backlog review of Danny Phantom a little while ago, but it ended up being a little bit shorter than I wanted it to be, and I hadn't talked as much about Danny Phantom as Danny Phantom deserves. So you get more Danny Phantom. It's a win-win. So this is my Danny Phantom Season 4 pitch. Now, there's no plan for a Season 4. Nickelodeon does weird stuff with its canceled shows. But I would like there to be more of this show, and I would like it to be good. I could see this season going in a few different ways, but here's one pitch that I would like to see. So in regards to Season 3, it can stay as it was. We don't need to retcon anything. We just don't need to talk about it a huge amount. The important things are the consequences that Season 3 leaves us with, which we can work with. So Vlad is gone temporarily, out of the way, he's floating in space. Danny and Sam got together at the end of that Season 3 episode, so now we're going to take it that they got together at that time. That's what happened, because that's the consequence of that episode. And we're also going to take it into consideration that everybody knows who Danny is now, including his parents and everybody else. Everybody knows that Danny Phantom is Danny Fenton. That's what everybody knows. So taking that premise, I'm going to go the easy route and say we're going to cut to a couple years later down the road. Danny Phantom is 17 years old. He's coming up on his 18th B-Day. He's starting in his senior year of high school. Sam and Tucker are still there. All of the cast that we know and love are still in the high school, including Valerie. I'm going to get to Valerie. So we're getting to that point in the high school experience in life where the outside world is starting to beckon, and you're not quite sure what is out there. There's a lot of trepidation at this point in time, at least there was for me. I know there is for a lot of people, and we're going to see what we can do with that, but making it relatable to us and the fact that it is a superpowered ghost show, because that's what Danny Phantom is. So we're just going to take regular stuff that regular people go through, and we are going to make it supernatural as well. That's it. The cool thing about this idea is that it allows the world to start being slightly more adult and complex than it was before. So things can get a little bit more strategic, a little bit more complicated with people's motivations and what have you. Because that's what happens at this point, Danny Phantom is on the verge of adulthood, but you're still in high school. You still have all of that teenage drama and slight, childish, petty tomfoolery that happens at that point, and people not quite knowing themselves and their emotions. So we've had a time jump. There's been a few years between Season 3 and Season 4, but Danny Phantom is still kind of a teenager. The first thing I would do is that Danny Phantom has gained a level of popularity. Not necessarily that he is cool, but everybody knows that he's Danny Phantom, the ghost hunter who helped to save the world. So people like Paulina, who had a crush on Danny Phantom, might be more attracted to Danny Fenton. People like Dash, who bullied him, might have a slightly more complicated relationship with Danny. Not necessarily a complete switch over to reverence, because I know that they explored that in one episode, that everybody treats Danny Phantom like, oh, we like you and we're going to do everything you say because you're great, whereas Danny Phantom is still a loser, and that's something very reminiscent of Spider-Man. But Dash can be, dealing with the fact that he has an offhand remark at one point where he knows that it's not going to get better for him after high school, and he can be dealing with the fact that that is the future that is coming for him. And all the characters can be dealing with this theme. The future that is coming for them is happening now. The years of high school where all of the cliques and all of these things mattered is coming to an end, and something else is about to begin. And everybody can be really worried about that. I have here, there is a potential for the return of that psychiatrist ghost character who feeds on despair. It'd be really fun if she put on a disguise and came back to the school as some kind of counselor, as some kind of person whose job is to talk through prospective career paths with the students and just messes with them again. I think that would be a fun episode because it's a riff on the one they already did. That'd be good. And as far as the outside world is concerned, the world governments now know for a fact that the ghost zone is a real thing because the entire world was made into a ghost so that a meteor could go through it. So everybody knows now, which means that agencies like the Men in White, who were a little bit more peripheral, are now a much bigger deal, and they have a lot more resources and are starting to play dangerous games. In this pitch, they will have done a raid on all of Vlad Plasmius's mansions and castles and secret underground labs, and reclaimed a lot of broken or half-finished technology, such as his ability to create AI, his ability to create clones, and of course ghost portals, which they are determined to use to recreate the accident which created both Vlad Plasmius and Danny Phantom, so that they can create human ghost hybrids and basically give themselves superpowers. But it's not going well. They're having difficulty because they're not as smart as Vlad Plasmius or Danny Phantom's parents, so they need the cooperation of somebody from that family, the Fenton family, in order to make the technology work. So the government is headhunting Danny Phantom to essentially join their agency when he gets out of high school. Like, don't get a job, come work for the government, help to protect the world from ghosts on a scale never before seen. That kind of shtick. But really, they do want him on their team, and there could be factions within the Men in White. Maybe there's a woman in white who does care about getting Danny Phantom on the team legitimately, but then other people in that organization and in the government just want him so that they can figure out how to recreate the experiment or to clone him, as in Danny with an I Phantom. The other thing is that Vlad's coming back. Vlad was stuck in space last time we saw him, but he frustratingly did not get an interesting or satisfactory conclusion to his own character arc that was established throughout seasons 1 and 2. So frustrating. So here's what's going to happen with Vlad. Vlad is going to be on an asteroid hurtling through space. He is eventually going to come up with a new ghost power, which is a power that we have already seen. So it's not new, it's just new for Vlad, because as we have established, these powers grow and evolve over time. So he is going to gain the ability that is like that strange werewolf ghost, where he can claw his way into the ghost zone and back out again. So he goes into the ghost zone. From the ghost zone, he is able to traverse and get back to Earth. And that's my explanation for how Vlad comes back to Earth. And then he can get back on track for his actual character arc, which is that he needs a family. He doesn't know how to go about getting that. But now everybody knows that he's a bad person, so he's forced into a situation where he's not manipulating things from the shadows or even in the open anymore. He is struggling to survive in a world that is actively hostile to him, but he is a genius level guy, so it's going to be like a meteoric rise type story where he will do anything he can to get back the power that he's lost, but ultimately he will go on a journey that will lead him to actually caring about people and actually getting somebody who cares about him back and seeing how that develops over time, because we have to mature Vlad's storyline as well as Danny Phantom's. We just have to. So now we're going to get to Danny and Sam. Danny and Sam can still be dating at the beginning of this new season. They could have been dating for a couple of years straight, and that's where we pick up, where they are still dating, but now all of the things I've already talked about, all of the preparing yourself to go out into the world, is starting to create rifts between them because they are very different people, and it starts to really show because Sam is going to want to become an environmentalist or an anarchist or a marine biologist or something in that vein, because that's who she is. And Danny is going to want to do something completely different. And are they going to remain together is a question that they start to have to ask themselves, and it starts to create tension. Again, a very high school thing. At the same time, Valerie has managed to get her dad into a better situation and is still a ghost hunter and is a sought after ghost hunter. Like, she's good at her job, and she and Danny Phantom have become kind of like a team where they kind of have each other's backs and go out and catch ghosts and send them back into the ghost zone. So they are ghost hunters. And on the sly, slight aside here, on the sly, the ghost hunter, what's his name? I'll put it here. The guy who says, "Ghost child." That guy, the Ghost Zone's greatest ghost hunter, he is going to be working with them as well. They will have developed their relationship over the course of the last couple of years, and they actually are all working together. Mostly the ghost guy stays in the Ghost Zone and does work there, trying to prevent people from getting to the human world in the first place, but basically working in tandem with Danny Phantom and Valerie. But basically, that aside, Valerie and Danny have become a team, and Sam gets really jealous of Valerie because Valerie is sharing Danny's life, and it looks more and more like she and Danny are going to go on the same career path outside of high school. And it's not an unfounded jealousy. Valerie and Danny have always had really good chemistry, and they continue to have really good chemistry. So there's a possibility for the relationship between Danny and Sam to fracture a little bit, and for Danny to kind of go flip-flopping a little bit between whether he's going to be with Valerie or whether he's going to be with Sam. And so there's a potential for things to go either way there, and it would just depend on what felt best at the time, how Sam came across in the new season, because she would have to be a better character. If I wanted to root for her and Danny to get together, I wanted her to be a better character. That's just what it is. The last thing that I want to propose as the new dynamic for season 4 is a little bit touchy, considering that this is originally a kids show, but this is a slightly more mature version of the show, so I'm going to make it a thing. In this new dynamic, Tucker is dead. I mean, Tucker died at some point, and it could be in a funny way. It could be, I'm thinking like Konosuba. If you don't know what that is, it's an anime where the hero dies in the first like 5 minutes of the show in a hilarious way. No spoilers here, but he thinks he's being heroic, and it turns out that he was just silly the way he died. So it could be something like that, as in Tucker died, but Tucker is now a ghost, and Tucker lives in the ghost zone, but sneaks out to spend time with Sam and Danny and maybe visits his family. There's some opportunity for some dark but like meaningful stuff in Tucker, especially his storylines, which I think would make a welcome change from what he had been before, which is a lot of comic relief. So Tucker can still have kind of a Chandler vibe where he makes a lot of jokes, but in all honesty, he died before he was done wanting to do things on Earth. He was ambitious. He wanted to create technology, and he died before his time, so he's a ghost. And he can harbor some legitimate feelings of bitterness and wanting to continue his work. And Tucker is going to become the apprentice / friend of Technus, the ghost, who's a villain, a recurring villain. And Technus can still be a more complicated villain, and he can drag Tucker down an interesting road, but basically Tucker is a technology-based, and he wants to learn technology-based ghost powers from Technus. And so Tucker is also trying to figure out how he's going to live the life that he wanted to live, but now he's a ghost. And he's got a new dynamic and the potential for some actual heartbreaking storylines, which would be the splash of heartbreak and like realism in the otherwise formulaic storytelling of Danny Phantom. So there you go. That's my season 4 pitch. That's the way I would set up the new relationships and the new status quo for that season. And it would be one season that would go through to the end of senior year, and then it would If it was going to continue, it would go and be the year after they graduate high school. So that's what that would be. So quick recap. Danny and Sam did get together. They stayed together, but now things are starting to get a little bit more tense. Danny still fights ghosts as a team with Valerie. Tucker is dead and is a ghost, but is learning technology from Technus. Vlad comes back, but Vlad is now on the opposite side of the power spectrum, where the world is more prepared for people like him with powers. Even though he is a very powerful individual, he starts from the bottom in this season and has to rise up and actually will develop real relationships. And the government, the men in white, are breaking into ghost technology seriously. Everybody in the world is taking ghost hunting seriously, which means that Danny is popular, and Danny is being headhunted by ghost hunting government agencies, and whether they want him to actually join them or whether they want him to experiment on him, that is up in the air. So yeah, you can tune in next time for something else, because, you know, I had planned to just do backlog reviews, but then I felt inspired to do this, so there will be more of something. All right, see ya.